hours of sleep last night because the kids wouldn't go to bed. I couldn't find anything to wear. And I missed my orientation and I have to reschedule it. You know what? I can't even be thankful because I literally have no help from anybody. Like, my baby daddy should take care of their kids. I just want to get my life together. Like, look at me. Look!
Back again for another video. On today's topic, we'll be talking about the video that you just seen. Geez. Where do we start? Consequences. There's a difference between situational consequences and natural consequences. And I think people believe that they can mitigate their I think people believe that they're absolved from natural consequences from stuff. Let me rephrase that. It's more like people believe that these things won't happen to them. It's unfortunate. I always believe that it is unfortunate for those who lack the understanding it takes to avoid these situations that they get themselves into. While I can be sympathetic, I lack the ability to be empathetic in these kinds of circumstances, because I too have made my own mistakes in regards to long-lasting natural consequences. I think we all have, but it comes to a point where there's such a saturation of failure around you that you don't have an excuse. You don't have an excuse as to why your life ended up in the condition of the saturation that's around you. You can see it. It's been around for many, many years. There are studies, there are statistics, there are graphs, charts, and videos, anecdotal opinions, and it's so much. But yet people still keep making the same decisions. This is what we call the low vibration. It's when a low vibration to me is simply saying common denominator. Common denominator, meaning that you commonly do what everyone else is doing, what the majority is doing. That's a common denominator. You are engaging in things that are evidently going to end up in a very poor outcome. But this plays in many different things. While yes, the video is the topic, I'm going to go over a few other things that are just the same. For instance, in my own personal life, I have dealt with, once again, several women. I've dealt with several women between this channel and my other channel. I think you guys can come to that conclusion if you haven't already. And I'm a very consistent man, very consistent. And in my consistency, I give warning of the outcomes. I give warning of what the potentials are. Not saying that I am always correct, but I have a history of being correct a lot of the time. I can see people's paths very well. The more intimately close I am to an individual, the more parts of their 6 levels of self that I get to access, the better I can see their path. And I may do a video on the 6 levels of self, because I think that's important. I think I did a video on it briefly before, but I only included 5. And of course, my understanding has been updated since then. So I think it's time to revisit that topic. But anyways, when it comes to me telling people about the potential outcomes of their lives, they don't like to listen. There are a few individuals in my life who did listen, like my homeboy. We were in the military together, and he was going through things with his ex-wife, and he was kind of down and out about that stuff. I told him what his potential path is. And he not only matched that path, but he exceeded it. I don't doubt that he didn't have the willpower. I just wanted to give him encouragement to keep him on that path, to let him know that somebody's got his back, especially as a man to a man. It's not often that men of my caliber, men of my understanding, men of my consciousness meet with each other, because once again, the majority of men are not that. And I'm not saying that majority of men are crap or nothing, but in that regard, but I know the difference. And he was one of like mine, and now he's an engineer. He makes more than 6 figures, right? Working with oil. That's what he does. I'm probably going to have him on the channel eventually. He's got his doctorates, so he's technically a doctor. That's my homie right there. We've been kicking it well before he had any of the degrees, like mine's, right? But anyways, this is one of the people who understood what I was saying, and he took heed and encouragement from that. But there have been majority of people who have been the common denominator, the ones who do not listen. When I tell them your life could be very differently than what you attain it to be, or are set out to attain it to be. It can be very differently than what you think it could be. And not only do I have the foresight, I have the ability to assist you in becoming that. And they don't listen. They think that I'm blowing smoke. They think that I'm just another dude that's saying things that's not correct, and they take it for granted. And unfortunately, along with the positive side, there is a negative side to this. And it's not in regards to my outcomes, but rather theirs. While I tell them what the potentials are, that does include the degradation of their lives instead of the ascension of their lives. And what I mean by this is that I tell them, hey, like I said, you can be much more than what you are. I see the potential, and I know exactly how to utilize it in such a way that you will manifest yourself, and you will be manifested into a better version of yourself. All you have to do is stick with the program, and I give them the program. It's up to them whether they want to take the medicine, right? And once again, I get pushback. But then I tell them, hey, due to the fact that you're not willing to accept this paradigm shift in your life, you will continue to be what you are, and it will degrade from there. And based upon how intimately close I am with this individual within their 6 versions of self, I can tell them exactly where they're going to go. Close. Not exactly, but very close, of how bad their life is going to become once they leave my space. And what I mean by my space isn't necessarily my physical space, but my intangible space, because I create an environment around me that is unlike anything else. Anybody who comes and is around me, I ask them, hey, what do you hear? And they say, I don't hear anything. Because my space is very quiet. It's very humbling, but to the point anyways. I tell them exactly, or like I said, close to exactly how degraded their life will become. And I tell them what the potentials are of what will be the outcome from not accepting the direction and the leadership. And then they say, oh, I'll take that risk. And I'm like, look, man, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And most times I'm talking to women in this way. I tell them, like, you don't want to do that because you don't understand what you're asking for. You think that this hardship that you must go through in order to evolve yourself is difficult. How much harder would it be for you to evolve, or to not only to not evolve, but then you get many things taken away from you in which you feel comfortable with accepting life as the way it is. What happens then? You know, and they're like, well, I guess I'll just see when I get there. You know how chicks can be. They're very bullheaded and very full of pride when they know that they don't have the ability to prevent a lot of the things that happen to them in their lives. While I do agree with the larger philosophy that women are agents of their own existence, the point of it is, though, that even though they are agents of their own existence, they give away their own power to the wrong structures. So they're no longer in charge of their lives at that point. They're literally leaves blowing in the wind, at which point they claim to be victims. Yes, you are a victim to the circumstances that happened to you, but that's only a micro portion of the macro. The macro is that you put yourself in that position in the first place. So really, are you a victim? You know? And then I get the calls, I get the texts, I get the messages months, years later that what I told them was correct. Even though I could show them, you know, this is not, once again, this is not me speaking out the side of my head. You know what I'm saying? You know, there are plenty of people who sell snake oil online. You know what I'm saying? There are plenty of people who proclaim things that they have no proof of. I actually have proof. I have people in my life who can attest to exactly what I'm saying. I have people in my life who can attest to the fact that I have the ability to see further than what they can with accuracy, and especially when it comes to the downfall of their life. I'm very accurate. I can say, hey, you know, this is the path that you're going to be on if you continue this path, whether it be a good outcome or a bad outcome. I can see it, you know. But once again, I have people who can vouch for that, whether it be they ended up in a good situation or a bad situation. There are some people within my past who have a how can I say it? Who have a bias towards me. You know, they don't want to admit that I've been right. You know, but if they set aside their pride, you know, they would admit. I've, you know, given people the paths that they were going to be on accurately, more than society has done for them. And that's the crazy thing. What did Jay-Z say? He said, I've done made more millions than the lotto did hit. Dame made millions, Biggs made millions, Yee made millions, Just made millions, Lion made millions, Cam made millions. Beans would tell you that if he wasn't in his feelings. You know, that's that one person, right, who is in their feelings and they won't admit that what I was saying was correct. You know, even though they know in their heart that I was right, you know, that I predicted what their outcome would be, what the direction would be, you know, what their circumstances would be accurately. I'm actually going to have somebody on in the near future who is going to attest that what I'm saying is actually correct. What I'm saying is very accurate in regards to what the outcomes are. But I don't want to make this whole video about this. We were talking about something else. Sorry, you know, flowed into something different. But I'm sure that there was someone in this woman's life who told her the same thing, and it probably was a man who told her that, look, you need to chill out, you need to get your stuff together, you need to focus on this and that. Here's where you need to improve, and this is the direction that you need to go in based upon where you're standing right now. I'm sure there was somebody who told her that. But even with a man in this woman's life, even with the evidence that society gives in regards to how women end up in these circumstances, they keep making these same stupid decisions. I don't understand it. I have only 3 children, right? 3 children. I ended up getting a vasectomy. I did this because I honestly, I would have got a vasectomy before I had any children, because I wanted to live very free. But nonetheless, I got a vasectomy because I ended up having children to the point where I was satisfied, but I wanted to continue my sexual history, of course, while still maintaining the ability not to have children mistakenly, because once again, I was in the lifestyle for a long time, and I still am, right? And being in a lifestyle, you don't want no mistakes, so that's what I decided to do in order to explore that side of myself very freely, without concern about having a child with a woman who I didn't deem as very fit. And people would ask me now, like, you talk all this stuff, you have all this rhetoric, why would you do something like that? Well, obviously I was not making the correct choices. Okay. Obviously, you live and you learn. I didn't grow up with people who were holding my hand down this lane of life. A lot of these things I had to learn on my own, so I made some decisions that were altering. Even now, still to this day, I practice a type of sexual discipline, right? I have access to a lot of women. Will I have sex? Have I been asked for sex? Yes, I have. Have I denied it? Yes, I have. So I'm very picky and choosy even now, especially as a dominant. You have to be. A lot of women I don't even have sex with at all, period. Never even crossed my mind. You have to be in order to maintain a certain level of authority over these women. And it's so crazy. Every woman who I've had sex with believes that I'm having sex with everybody. Like, women are so close-minded when it comes to sex, but they say men are. It's so strange. Anyways, but when it comes to the choices I made, these were made out of ignorance. I had no idea what level of self-control I could practice until I reached my latter years. But once again, I'm pretty sure somebody told me this, right? So I deal with the consequences of these things, right? Like I said, we've all made decisions in our lives, and there have been clues of how you should live your life and the things that you should and shouldn't engage in, when and where. All those things are told to you at some point in time. You have to be conscious enough to realize those things. And I was not conscious enough. I operated once again on a very low vibration. This is the reason why I got a vasectomy instead of just practicing some self-control, right? And this is no different than this woman's outcome. She didn't practice any self-control. Now she's in a circumstances that comes with natural consequences that she was not prepared for, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever. She was not prepared for these things. But once again, who's to blame here? Yes, she's a victim of her circumstances, but who put those circumstances in motion? While we sit here and we want to point the finger at everyone else, and we scream and we cry for help, and we, we get ourselves in these messed up situations, we never correct ourselves in the meantime. For the most part, as a people, not me as an individual, because I have, but as a people, we don't correct ourselves. We expect others to substitute where we drop the ball. No. That's no different than someone living a life of poverty and coming into a lot of money through the, whatever, the lotto, inheritance. What do they usually do with it? They squander it. This is no different than someone who has not practiced the things necessary to avoid these situations. Even if you do help them, they're going to squander the opportunity to become something better, even in the duress circumstances that they're in as a result of their own decisions. Sounds crazy, but believe me, I'm right. Y'all know that. But pay attention to the things around you. Pay attention to the signals that you get. Pay attention to the information, especially if it's something that you haven't heard before in regards to the path that you're going to assume eventually. Take heed of those things. Pay attention. These things are important. And especially if someone comes in your life and is trying to direct you to a positive direction, how can you mistake them as an enemy or someone who's against what you're trying to do? No. You should definitely take heed. You should definitely listen. You should definitely become a student. I'm quick as hell to become a student. When I realize something, when I come across something that I have not heard before, that I have not experienced before, I'm quick as hell to become a student to learn. Why? That's what wisdom is, right? Moving with the intent of success while economically keeping the amount of energy low and reaching the objective. That's wisdom. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. Sorry for the long ramble, because that's exactly what this was. It was a ramble about how people should fix their lives and how people shouldn't cry victim as a result of their own decisions. But anyways, until next time, this has been the Wolf in Beta Clothes. May you have a good day. And of course, peace be with you.